And then how do you make it public? It says unlisted. Fuck.
Hold on. I do not know. Oh, right here. Ready and public. Boom. Save changes.
Cool.
All right. I
Yeah.
think we are
You
live.
can. We are live. Share. Fuck. Sorry, y'all. I was being stupid. Subscriptions. Is it gonna go public now? There we go. There we go.
Are we
YouTube's
good?
working now.
Are we good?
We're good. So now I'm about to tweet. So join us now for visions. Paste. Tweet. Okay. Hi everyone. Sorry, I'm a little scatterbrained today, but it's gonna be okay. So, but yes, we are here for Star Wars Alliance, and we're kicking off a new era. So unfortunately, Nathan couldn't be with us again tonight, but we do have a special announcement. So Nathan, he and his wife just had another baby, so he's decided to kind of step away so he can focus on his family a little bit, which totally get it, totally understand. And Clay has volunteered to step up in his place, the master of podcasts himself. Clay, welcome to your 10th podcast, whatever it is.
I know it feels like I have way too many, but I am really excited to jump onto Star Wars Alliance. Now, I've been here every single time that Star Wars has gone and published an episode for quite some time now. So I'm joining, but I'm not joining. I've been here already, kind of thing. But it is such an honor to be here. I have, like I said many times before, have fallen in love with Star Wars all over again, being on this podcast, joining in on all of the High Republic stuff. But most importantly, um, my one of well, both two things that I absolutely love: Star Wars and anime have joined forces to make one of the most godly series on Disney Plus right now. And I have so much to say about these episodes and how we're going to break them down. We're not going to spend too much time on each one because, like I said, I could go on forever on each one of these episodes. But yeah, super excited to be joining the team of Star Wars Alliance. Nathan, I will not be able to replace you. I am not replacing you. I am only joining the team. But
yes, and Nathan will be back.
Yes,
Several
he will.
times probably. So especially when it comes time for Thrawn Ascendancy number 3, like he's definitely coming back for that because you gotta have him back for Thrawn. Thrawn's his favorite character. So, but before we get into it, like Clay said, we're gonna dive into episodes. If for some reason you want to talk about a specific episode, and you want us to cover it more in depth, shoot us a message. We can do it on a later episode. But we haven't been gone for 3 weeks. Sorry about last week. Had a little bit of emergency. But we're back and we're here weekly. So we've got a lot of time to cover a lot of topics. We will not be getting into a ton of news today. We're gonna throw in a little bit at the end with some of the recent stuff that's come out about some Disney Plus shows. And then next week we'll go in depth because I know like we missed Knights of the Old Republic remake and several other things. So next week will probably be a full blown newscast and we'll just talk all about news. But before we get into anything else, gotta hit the podcast page. We're excited for things. So first things first, Star Wars Alliance is a part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network where we have shows almost every single day of the week. Mondays, you've got World's Finest True Believers with Chris, and then Ranger Alliance with Clay, Joe, Tony, and oh my gosh,
Jake.
Okay, yeah, it was like Nerd Grounds. What's his name? Oh, okay, so Jake. Uh, and those rotate opposite weeks. On Mondays, Tuesdays, you've got DC Alliance with Travis and Clay. Wednesdays, you've got Travis with Superhero Discussions. Thursdays, you've got Star Wars Alliance with me and Clay. And then Fridays, you've got Marvel Alliance with Chris and Brent. And starting next Saturday will be Walk Through the Multiverse. I Walk Through the Multiverse's first time airing an episode on Saturdays with Star Wars Alliance going weekly and Saturdays being free. Now you've got a perfect place for a walk through the multiverse, and that is every other week with Joe. And then every other Sunday you've got Slice of Film with me, film review with a guest. So yeah. We have Chris in the chat popping in. Thank you, Chris. He's saying congratulations for the big premiere for the Wednesday live time slots. We appreciate you, Chris. So, and there will be ads in this episode. We're gonna probably hit about 3. But before we go into those ad breaks, either Clay or I will give you a warning before they come in. And it's been so long since I've done a podcast. It's been like a month. I'm out of practice. But just so y'all know now, we don't get to choose who the ads are from, nor how many times you hear the ad in the same episode, and nor how loud they are. So just kind of prepare those volumes. We do appreciate y'all listening to the ads. They do help support the show and the network as a whole. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, we do have one of those. The $1 tier helps keep the Kyber crystals charged down here, and the $5 tier gets y'all ad-free episodes, exclusive episodes, and any early episodes we may drop. And I think that's it. Did I hit everything?
You hit everything. Well, there is a small little programming just for the fact that this week is the Venom review over at the
Oh, yes, right.
Marvel Alliance. They were going to be going live tonight when we are going live just to go over what if, but because they completely forgot about us, way to go, Chris, way to go, Brent. Like,
Come on, y'all.
geez. But they decided not to go live tonight. In fact, they are going to go ahead and just go live on Friday, and we will be talking Venom. It will be Brent, myself, Joe, and I believe Travis. We're going to be talking about Venom. That review will go live on Saturday. Chris is not joining because he is going to Disney World with his family. So, well wishes for him.
Win, Chris?
And then, of course, DC, Marvel, and Star Wars all have their own separate feeds. So if you would like to just listen to those shows, you can subscribe to them separately. But the episodes will still be dropping on the Geek Ultimate Alliance feed as well. So if you would like to still just, support all of us or just us separately, it's completely up to you, but the choice is yours.
Yes, and you just reminded me of the other giveaway that I was going to talk about. So we will actually be giving away 2 things. So one thing the winner has already been chosen for. We'll announce it a little bit later at the end of the show. But the second thing we're giving away is a signed copy of Ronin, which is an adult book coming from Del Rey Publishing that is written by Emma Mieko Candon. And that comes out October 12th. And so we'll be giving away a signed copy to basically somebody who does the following criteria. So because Star Wars Alliance now has their own feed, you can go in and rate and review us separately. And so that's all you have to do. And send the Star Wars Alliance account a screenshot. Just so we know who you are and we can get in contact with you. So that giveaway, because the book doesn't come out until the 12th, is running until the 12th. So we will announce that live on the October 13th show. So you've got a little bit of time to do that, and we'll remind you each episode. But we did just want to kind of do that just to kind of promote the new feed. So, and again, like Clay said, episodes will drop on both, so nothing to worry about there. So with that, let's jump right into visions because why not?
And speaking of Ronin, that's exactly what the first episode is about, the
Yes.
duel. Now, really quick, before we jump into every single episode here, I just have to ask. I know that you and your husband were just like really excited about everything, and you were. I will say I have not watched it subbed yet. I was only available with my hectic schedule to only watch it dubbed. But how did you like everything overall? What are your high level thoughts on all of it together?
So I liked some episodes more than others, definitely, and we'll get into that, especially with this first one. The different animation styles were superb. Like, I liked seeing all of the different aspects of, like, what Japanese artists can kind of bring to the to the table, I
Yeah.
guess is what I'm trying to say. Um, I didn't so I was able to watch 1 through episodes 1 through 7 fully subbed as well as the dub. I did not get a chance to get 8 and 9 watched on the sub. So
Okay.
I'm a little more sketchy on those. But I really these gave me a new appreciation for the sub culture of that's weird, but the subculture of anime fandom because I was always like, I don't want to read subtitles. I'm lazy, and y'all, I'm very lazy. So I'm sorry,
It
but
it's a different monster. I mean, for me as a person who is very much into anime, that whole debate whether sub versus dub can get a little obnoxious sometimes, but
mhm,
I didn't notice it until this rewatch just literally right before we started recording. There was like 1 or 2 episodes that I was watching, dubbed, that I noticed that the, ADR wasn't necessarily matching up as much as that I would probably like, because this time I was kinda looking for some of those, but
yeah.
that doesn't hinder the fact that these were amazing, absolutely amazing. I too loved, some more than others. Now, I know that you wouldn't be Katie without some hot takes. Do you have any hot takes for any of these? Do you want to save them for later? What are you thinking?
So I guess my first and only really, um, would have to just be the duel. So this was probably my most hyped up one, and I absolutely hated the anime style. This is like the one where I hated the anime
I
style.
felt like you were going to say that. This episode, the duel, I feel like the duel was more promoted in trailers or in posts from anything and everything Disney, whether it be the Star Wars account, whether it be the Disney Plus account, whether it be the Disney account. I feel like the Duel was probably the one that was mostly being promoted, other than the others, as far as footage wise.
I would actually disagree because I
Really?
think the duel, especially in the first trailer they released, the duel had like 2 seconds of footage. I thought Lop and Ocho or maybe the Village Bride were more highly promoted.
Oh, maybe. I
And
guess I'm.
the
Oh,
Star
go
Wars
ahead.
account has been going through each one and saying, okay, here's the poster for this one specifically because
Yeah.
all they did beforehand was come out with a joint the Visions poster and then the joint trailer. But they've been going through and like kind of doing the episode guides and then an individual poster for each short. And I think the duel, while I liked the story that was being told, the animation style just kind of it really just threw me off. And I once Matt kind of explained it to me because Matt's more of an anime person, he kind of explained, "Oh yeah, the colors are only meant for the technological aspects." And I'm like, "Yeah, but we still could have done like black and white and not had like the pencil look to it."
Well, the animation is supposed to be an homage to that of the, I forgot which style of filming it is, but it's that of like the Seven Samurai. It's in black and white, but it has like a certain name to it. Um I can't remember. Kirkland and Taylor were talking about it when they talked about Visions on their Geek First episode with the review of this.
Yep.
Um, if anybody has ever played the game Ghost of Tsushima, you can actually turn the game into black and white, and they call it a certain thing. That is exactly what it is. I at this rewatch that I had right before recording, I did notice like some of it wasn't really as great as I first thought it was when I first watched it, but I still love the idea of it. And
Yeah.
that's something that I want to go ahead and just say right out the gate. The idea of Disney giving the core ideas of Star Wars to these animation studios and saying, hey, you can literally do whatever you want with this. And them taking that liberty and doing exactly that was awesome. They weren't tied down to any ideas of what would supposedly be canon, or, following a certain story of another character or anything like that. So having just having this opening and seeing an umbrella freaking lightsaber was amazing. Like,
Not love
just
that.
just having that, and the way she like skewered one of the assassins with just like
Mm,
opening it up. It didn't show him like splitting off into like 8 different pieces, but you
that would
get
have been
the
really
idea.
cool though.
You get the idea, right? So like I love that. If anybody didn't notice, the droid that the Ronin has, uh, the sounds from that is actually from like the original trilogy. That's R2D2.
Yeah.
Uh, if you guys didn't know, if you actually go to the extras on Disney Plus, it has not every episode, but it has basically how each studio took their approach in making the story happen for each
Yeah.
one of these.
And
Uh,
I haven't had a chance to go through those, but that's definitely on my list because I was really intrigued by a lot of this. And I know a lot of people have said, "Oh, we really want to see some of these stories like told in a longer format, or like can we have a Star Wars Visions season 2?" And for me, I'm actually going to disagree with you slightly
okay.
on the Disney giving the creators this and saying, "Hey, let's do this." I don't have a problem with them handing Star Wars and saying, "Look, here's your universe. Here's some basic stuff about it you have to keep. Go have fun." I don't want that premiering on Disney Plus. I want to see that from like video game publishing, where like you have EA and then like gosh, I don't know why I picked video game publishing. You have Del Rey and then you have Disney, and each one are kind of telling variations of a story. And I kind of want that for the TV shows we're getting, for the movies we're getting. If you're not going to stick to canon, I think Disney needs to stick to canon. Like absolutely stick to canon. But I think Star Wars is a big enough universe where you can hand it out to other studios and go, "Hey, we want you to have fun with this. Like you can license this out and build your story. Heck, give it to Zack Snyder and have Netflix do his space Star Wars movie."
See, I will say this. I get where you're coming from, and I agree with you, but I still think, because kind of like what Brent was saying in our own GUA chat, was them giving these properties away, and yeah, they'll probably get like a slice of it, but like they wouldn't get all of it. And that's what Disney Plus is for, is to get the money, and that's ultimately what this is about. But I had an idea, and of course, we don't work for Disney. This is
With more for
probably
this thing.
this is not going to
Huge
happen.
disclaimer.
Probably not going to happen. But I want to shoot this idea to you. So I immediately, like the day after this premiered, I was like, I want a season 2. I want a season 2. But I don't want anything to continue from season 2. I want completely brand new stories.
Yeah.
And then, because this isn't like everybody is attached to Marvel's What If right now, because that's the
Mhm.
closest thing to this. They're like, oh, this is Star Wars What If. No, this is
I hate that.
anthology.
It's not.
This is an anthology that has nothing to do with the Star Wars canon that we all know and love. These are just random stories that people made up. But what if I were to tell you, okay, the studio that created the Ninth Jedi, we want you to continue the story. Here's a budget. We'll make it an hour and 45 minutes, a movie, an hour and 45 minutes, and it will premiere on Disney Plus. And then, because like the duel, and I know we're getting a little off topic, we'll
Yeah.
jump back into this, but the duel is somewhat continuing, and I think it's technically a prequel, right? The book
No, so actually, so the first 5 chapters of Ronin debuted on StarWars.com on Monday. We're recording this on Wednesday. Um, and the first 2 chapters summarize what happens in the duel, and everything else is after it.
after. Okay, so it's continuing in a book format. Do it in different medias. You can do uh the twins in a 3 episode miniseries on Disney Plus. You can do
Yeah,
the Ninth Jedi on be it a movie, and just continue them randomly, not like have this hardcore schedule where we're expecting a new movie every 6 months or something,
yeah,
because then the audience will expect certain things out of it. I think that Disney should see what is blowing up in Visions right now, what are the most loved ones, and see how they can continue that. I think they saw something special in the duel, which I still think there is something special with it. The idea of a very traditional story uh, in Japanese culture, the Wanderer, the
mhm,
Ronin, and using it in a Star Wars aspect, I think that is really cool.
yeah,
And so continuing it in a book makes sense. They're able to make that story probably a little bit longer than what you could have done in a movie, in a short miniseries or whatever. So doing that and not really expecting, oh, we'll see the continuation of the duel in season 2, you know?
yeah. And I definitely agree with that. I think if you're gonna do Vision season 2, it doesn't necessarily need to be new studios because obviously we had studios come in and do multiple episodes in this. So I don't necessarily think it needs to be different studios. However, I do think it needs to be different stories.
Yes.
Um, because that's what it was for. It was an anthology. It was never supposed to be anything continuous. I do like the idea of having a movie or some sort of continuation for these because like I loved the Ninth Jedi. I loved her to death. Her character
Oh,
was so great.
when we
Uh,
get there, I'm gonna gush all over it.
um, so I think that one would be a really good one to continue, and I think a lot of people agree with that. But I also think stuff like The Village Bride, where you have a very traditional Jedi who's learning how to expand her thought process and go, okay, maybe I should get involved here, and that kind of thing. Because I think these stories were so bold in trying to, and not necessarily bold and like something new we've seen before, but they managed to make a story that most people have had problems with meld to a point where they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I can see where this is coming from." Because that's your biggest problem with Star Wars is everybody agrees on something, but the way you tell it is where they disagree. And so I think a lot of people fell in love with this, and I think that's a great thing about anime is everyone feels a little bit more at home with it because it's animation. And it's something where and I haven't watched that many anime, y'all, but I watched a couple and I feel like you can just meld a theme. Japanese creators know how to meld a theme into it so well. And I think that's what really succeeded here was telling traditional themes of Star Wars, but telling it in a different way so people really fell in love with it.
Mhm.
Um, and personally for me, going back to, and then we'll kind of continue this one. We'll take an ad break and then we'll go into visions. But just for me, with kind of the reason I'd like to see Disney stick more towards canon. I know it'll never happen. Disney Plus is too much of a cash cow for them. But I think having it be to where different studios can tell different things, it allows people to go, okay, if I go see Warner Brothers Star Wars, I'm going to get a very specific type of Star Wars. Whereas if I see Disney Star Wars, I'm getting this. And I think it's always going to be a limit with storytelling, like Warner Brothers and DC. You know you're going to get a
Now,
mess.
I do have a kind of topic of discussion that kind of goes in that route. I will say for a different episode because this one is going to be a
Mm,
little bit longer with us talking every episode, but we will go into that realm of conversations with what I want to talk about in a future
yeah.
episode.
Oh,
Uh,
definitely.
but let's go ahead and take our first ad break real quick, and we'll run by more of these episodes of Vision. So we
Yes.
will be right back. Let's go ahead and do a 3 count. Ready? 3, 2, 1. And we
And
are back.
welcome back.
uh,
Podcast magic if you're watching live.
yes.
um,
So I will say this: Tatooine Rhapsody was probably my least favorite. Not because it's a bad episode, but
all right.
because
I want to hit on the duel just really quick because we kind
okay,
of talked
okay.
around the duel.
That's true, that's
Um,
true, that's true.
so what did you think of the duel?
I genuinely thought that it was well, let's just say this. When we see the assassin Sith woman, I forgot what they named her. Um, but we see her, you see the Ronin confront her, and we see the amazing shot of him using the force to like grab onto her lightsaber.
Yes.
But when you see the color of his lightsaber for the first time, which I didn't see, of course, until I actually watched the episode, you're like, oh shit, it's not a freak. And like he even says, he's like, unfortunately, I am not a Jedi.
Yeah.
I love this because it breaks the rules of like, well, not necessarily breaks the rules because we've seen small instances, very small instances of like Sith, like do quote unquote doing the right thing, you know?
Yeah.
And seeing it like this, you're like, okay, this kind of tells you he is not a good guy, but he's not necessarily a bad guy either.
And this is where I kind of think I hated the short film aspect, is because the description of this one in particular is really alluring. Because, and I'm gonna synopsize y'all because obviously we're gonna go into like with Ronan and everything. We'll talk more about it, but this one, it's a full planet. It is where the story's based, but basically they treat it. It's very much like the samurai. You've got different warring clans, and a group of Jedi breaks off and becomes the Sith. And the Sith in this case, the description makes it seem like they're good guys. And so this is where I'm kind of disappointed with Ronan being after this because I really want a fucking prequel to this. Like, I want to see it. And so because there's like, and getting to the end where he's like he destroys the Sith lady's lightsaber and then takes the kyber crystal and goes to put it in his jacket or his robe thing, where you see he's got like 7 other kyber crystals lined up. And he goes, I don't need this one, and hands it to the kid chief and is like, this will bring you good luck, protection, yada
Yeah,
yada
it,
yada.
it it wards off evil, I think was the way he described it. Uh that like it's it's so I don't know because you get like weird like Grievous vibes. It's like okay, he's not
Yeah.
necessarily collecting lightsabers, he's collecting kyber crystals,
Hmm.
and we know the power that kyber crystals have.
Yes.
in main canon Star Wars. But what does it mean in this story? You
So,
know?
like, why is he collecting them? And maybe we'll get that in Ronin. I did not read the 5 chapters personally because
I
I'm like,
have I
the
wanted to
book is
wait.
coming out.
Yeah, I
I'm
wanted to
like,
wait.
and spoiler alert, y'all, the 13th is my birthday. So I have taken that day off and I plan on reading Ronin all day. So then I can come in and be prepared. Um, so I'm just like, I want to wait. And so maybe this is answered, maybe this isn't, but that's, I think, the most alluring aspect of the duel to me. The animation style, seeing it 3 times because I watched that one 3 times, it never really caught on to me to really make it work. I get the legacy that is coming behind, but ultimately it was just like, eh. So
So with Tatooine Rhapsody, like I was
yes.
saying, it's not my favorite, but it's not my favorite because it's bad. Because one thing that I absolutely love about this episode is the music. The main point of this episode is the music because there's a band. And it's not your traditional Star Wars music, you
Well,
know? It legitimately sounds like an anime opening. Like it sounds like
oh yes.
Japanese pop. And anybody who loves anime has either a YouTube playlist or a Spotify playlist or whatever music freaking app of your choice playlist of anime openings. And if you say you don't, I know you're lying. Like it's just something that we do. I have like my favorite openings for almost every anime that I watch. So listening to this, I was like, okay, I'm jiving with this. I like this. But it did move a little slow. And I wanted more from the main character. I wanted
Mhm.
to know a little bit more about him. But I understand that this story wasn't necessarily about him being a Jedi, it's about the band.
Yes.
So that's why I was just like, okay. Like this I don't personally think that I would watch a continuation of this specifically unless you really convince me that like hey, you're going to get a lot of freaking Star Wars Japanese pop and like cuz there's plenty of shows that are like that have a lot of music integrated into it. It's just I don't know. Like this one compared to everything else was low on the totem pole for me.
For me, I think this is where it show Star Wars Vision shows a failing. And I'm gonna kind of piggyback on one of the questions Chris sent us. He said, "Did you like the all at once release, or would you rather them do 2 episodes at a time to spread it out?" I would have rather them spread it out.
I would have rather them spread it out. Now, I don't know if I wanted one episode or two because if the Duel and Tatooine Rhapsody came out and I watched them in that order, I would have been like, "Oh, you ended on that? Like that's the last episode we have for this week?" You
I
know?
think you could have done because each episode kind of had a Jedi in it. Um, so you couldn't really have separated it out like that, but I think you could have done it to where um things could have been said, "Oh, okay, we're gonna do traditional Jedi themes this week, and here's 3 episodes." But I think 2.5 hours of material in one day is a lot. And I mean, I've already seen the talk for this like drastically dive off.
Yes, yes.
Whereas you've still got What If going, and What If, yes, it's not technically like the same thing, but it's in the same vein to a lot of people. And What If's going week to week.
Yeah.
So why is this dropping all at once? And so I think if you drop it instead of um instead of dropping it all at once, if you drop it one at a time or 3 at a time, then you allow your creators a little more freedom because I honestly would have rather just said, okay, you're gonna get like a bunch of different anime films and not done the short part. Because I feel like a lot of these stories have a lot of depth in them
Hmm.
that can't be reached in the time period that's allotted to them. And I think this is where Tatooine Rhapsody falls off for me, is because the character depth is not where I'd want it to be. And I think that's what it, because I think this is probably my last one as well. And it's not because I hate it either. It's just literally I want more depth in them, and I'm not getting it.
Yeah, because the main character at one point, the whole premise of this is that their uh guitarist, or whatever you want to name the instrument in Star Wars terms, has a bounty on his head that was given to Boba Fett from Jabba. And like they're gonna go rescue him, and they're like, okay, so how do we do this? And their plan is to play their music so well that, and then convince Java, hey, we're going to be the best band in the galaxy and we want you to be our sponsor.
Which,
It's
yeah.
very surface level, very surface level. And again, you only have, this episode is 14 minutes long. It's a quick 14 minutes. There's some of these episodes that feel like, oh my gosh, that was 30 minutes long. And then you look at it, oh no, it was only 18. Like, some of these episodes can really use the extra time that we want them to have. This was definitely one of those, because you don't even really get anything from Jabba other than a couple laughs. And
Yeah.
then I can't believe I forgot his name. Boba Fett, the voice actor.
Tamura Morrison.
He reprised his role, but for what, two lines, maybe?
Yeah.
One, two? One of the,
2, 3 lines.
yeah,
Some yeah.
very, very short-lived. And like I said, I probably wouldn't have, like, I probably won't if they decide, hey, the story we're going to continue out of all 9 of these episodes is Tatooine Rhapsody. I'm going to be a little disappointed, but I'll still watch it and I'll probably enjoy it more than I did the short episode, you know?
Yeah. Because I think this is just where it completely falls off for me. So, um, going next, we have the twins, which is based on Luke and Leia. It's definitely not Luke and Leia, but that's kind of where they took it and spun it. So we get a conjoined Star Destroyer in this one, which I thought was pretty badass.
The way they use the conjoined Star Destroyer, as far as like how it's supposed to be used to destroy planets, is really, really cool. I like the mechanism that Trigger is the production company that did this one, or studio. Uh, I love their animation. Uh, I love the fact that these two twins were born of the dark side. It's not like, hey, they got to choose their path. Like, no, they were both like born of the Sith.
Yeah.
And I saw I saw somebody be like, "Man, this makes me wish uh that Ben and Ray were brother and sister." And I'm like, "What? Uh okay, I guess." Like, to kind of think of the way the relationship maybe would have gone. I love the idea of this. This, I would say, is the craziest as far as every single episode goes. This is the most anime. Like, you cannot deny
Yes.
that.
Because,
Um
and I specifically want to call this out. So the twins can just stand in space all day long.
yes.
But when the droid comes out in space, he needs a fucking helmet.
He has a helmet. Yes. I kind of like headcanon it as like they're using the power of the force, maybe. But again, this is not the Star Wars that we know and love. This is somebody else's idea of Star Wars. And that's what I like. You basically give them the sandbox, and they're like, well, you call it a sandbox, I call it a fucking desert. And you're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And then they prove me wrong, and I'm the one that gave it to them. I love the way these studios do that. So we see that the male of the twins is starting to have second thoughts on basically his way of life. And he's just like, hey, this is wrong. We need to get away from here. And so he takes the kyber crystal
Mhm.
from the actual Star Destroyer, because this is before what we would consider like the Death Star, right? So he takes this and he's like, we're gonna run away, like me and this droid. And then his sister starts to fight him. And she has this like wicked, badass looking, like almost Darth Vader suit. And
Yeah.
when they actually start to fight, he takes this kyber crystal, throws it into his lightsaber, and then this is where the craziness ensues, right? You see the freaking whatchamacallit, his lightsaber, when he
Yeah.
is like getting, sorry about my dog. I don't know what's going on out there. But
You good.
he flies off. He's like, no, wait, we have to destroy this. We have to save my sister. He grows the lightsaber about the size of a freaking planet. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It is bonkers off the wall. It doesn't make any sense, because when he finally destroys what he needs to destroy, which is a part of her suit, it touches that part and then immediately retracts while he is going into hyperspace.
But
It's
but
great.
so this one is number 8 on the list for me. Because I'm a rule follower, spoiler alert. And so it's a struggle for me to get past the anime aspects of this, because this is like probably the most anime out of the 9. And for me, the space where they're just flying in space, and him like physically being on the ship outside of space and going into hyperspace. Okay, fine if you want to do like regular space, but hyperspace, what? And then so the lightsaber literally cuts through her, and she's it's not like she's like laying down to where the suit is only gonna like be cut up top. No, like the lightsaber literally shows like it's going through like her crotch and then to her boobs and everything, and then stops at the kyber crystal where the kyber crystal explodes, and then and I'm just like, huh?
It's anime. You like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that any and all anime is good anime, because there's definitely some bad anime, trust me. But this, I genuinely, I left all the rules at the door when I said this. When I sat down and said, "Hey, this is Star Wars, and I know it's not going to be the Star Wars that I know." Because when you see her lightsaber turn into what we can canonically say might be a light whip, it then turns into like an octopus light whip, and
So
has like,
that was her suit. So she put the kyber crystal in her suit, and she already had the 2 lightsabers. Then her suit grew 2 arms, which had the light whips from the kyber crystal.
yeah. So when she did this, like she was able to wrap around the lightsaber, and like
Mm.
I'm like, okay, I'm for it. Let's do it. Like they're already breathing in space. Like it's clearly not going to do anything that makes sense to me on this realm of Earth. Let's see what they do with it. And it's not like they continued the story immensely afterward. It was literally the one fight and then it was done. If
Very
they
cool fight.
if they
Very
would
cool
have,
fight.
I will say, if they would have gone further with the chaos and story, I could probably be like, okay, this is getting a little ridiculous. But because it was legitimately just that one fight, I'm like, okay, that was crazy, fun, but crazy. I will. I don't know if it's number 8 for me. I'm looking at all the episodes, and you know what? It might be. This might actually be number 8 for me.
I think simply for me, and I didn't rank the Duel. Duel is like number 6 for me. Um, but I think for me, it's just I get handing them a sandbox and going, "Here's what you get. You can play it. You can do whatever you want in here." And it just really bugged me because I'm like, physics. And yes, I can kind of get past like explosions in space, y'all. Like, sorry if I'm a hypocrite, but it for being so short, it didn't have enough to grab me to say, "Oh, okay, I can get past this." Now I did like the play on Luke and Leia. I liked that Kare still had enough sympathy in his bones to go, "Okay, you know what? This is gonna kill my sister. I need to do something about this." And playing on that, okay, everyone has a little bit of light side in them. Um, so I liked the play on C3PO and R2D2 in this because you had I can't even remember what the droid's name was, but it was like C something, and then you had E something for the taller droid.
Mhm,
Um, but both of them kind of having split up, kind of like Luke and Leia, with what was her name? Having the protocol droid, and then Kare having the little droid. So I thought it was a cool aspect. I think I liked this one better with the sub as well. The sub kind of made it feel more anime, whereas having the dub here with because I think it's Neil Patrick Harris and somebody else,
yeah.
but having them involved, it watching them first, it was like, this is hard to believe, but then the sub was okay. This is Japanese. Okay, I can get past it a little bit. Sorry, y'all, if that's like bad, but that's how my brain works. Um, so
And
I think maybe on future watches, this one will get better for me because I'll be like, okay, it's fine, it's
and
fine.
I don't see that as, like, offensive or anything. Because one thing that I will say this may be offensive, not in the way that Bob was trying to, word it with Shang-Chi, but Visions is literally an experiment. It's literally a test saying,
Mhm.
"Hey, is this kind of thing going to work for us on our platform for Disney
Yeah,
Plus?" Because who knows what the success of Vision will actually evolve into, as far as maybe doing this exact same thing with Marvel or doing this exact same thing with a different franchise?
yeah,
So I'm okay with random individuals jumping into this that are, not very versed in anime, not very versed in Star Wars. Cause I almost feel like, hey, you've never seen Star Wars before? Hey, you've never watched anime? Here, watch this so you get a little bit of a taste of both and see if you like one or the other,
yeah.
you know?
I could see it.
So
So,
I I'm not gonna fault you for one, not being a huge weeb when it comes to, you know, loving anime or anything. Because for me, I can look at each of these episodes, I can love them for different aspects. I can dislike them for others. But for me, I read manga every single Sunday and I watch at least 3 episodes of anime throughout the week. Like I am entrenched in this kind of stuff. So for me, I'm going to be like, oh, "Okay, yeah, I like this for this reason, this for this reason." I'm not going to expect my wife to jump into Star Wars Visions and be like, superly culturally, like, in depth, being able to determine whether this stuff is good or not? So I'm not going to fault anybody for some of these not necessarily itching the Star Wars scratch that they want to be itched.
yeah. All right, y'all. I think it's time for another ad break. So we will come back and we'll discuss Village Bride, Ninth Jedi, and TOB1 when we come back. So 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we're back. Thanks for being patient, y'all. Podcast magic. Woo! All right. So the Village Bride. It's probably the most traditional out of these, I would say.
Yes. I did actually watch the behind the scenes kind of like ideas of how they came up with this stuff. It is very, very traditional. Some of the ideas come from just like Japanese lore altogether. Um, this it's I think it was Snell that kind of like rolled his eyes. I was on After Nine over at Geekverse a couple days ago, and they were like, "Oh, you've seen Star Wars Visions. What were your favorites?" I was like, "Oh, it's a tie between," and I chose like four different episodes. The Village Bride was one of them. And I think it's because of the very traditional aspects of Japanese anime that are in this. You had a little bit of like, if people know about like Princess Mononoke,
That's what this one reminded me of.
there's a little bit of that in there. Of course, you have your things like a Ronin. Then you have trying to think of some other stuff that people may take into account when watching this episode. You have a little bit of a Rurouni Kenshin type uh storyline here. I really loved this. For one, the Jedi that we run into, I don't know if they actually give her a name, the one with the actual
So it's
scar.
just F.
F? Okay.
F.
So she has a katana lightsaber. And I think this is the first katana-esque lightsaber that you see throughout the series. Because even when you look at the duel, their lightsabers looked pretty traditional other than the hilts. This one,
Yeah.
you actually see the curvature and the traditional blade like katana
It looks like
made.
the dark saber almost.
Yes, it was very much shaped like the dark saber, but it was a yellow lightsaber, which I absolutely loved. Um but this whole idea of the village bride and how uh they're going to do whatever they can to protect the village and the mountains, and I absolutely loved it. Like it was something that wasn't like bombastic when it came to like, hey, this is going to be a giant fight like the twins, or it's not going to be as a complex story as something like the Ninth Jedi, you know. uh but this one was very subtle, but the
Mhm.
action when it was there was amazing.
Yeah. I I really liked kind of the Princess Mononoke vibes out of
Mhm.
this with the village and in particular the bride, and I loved her husband. Her husband was so cute. I was like, "Oh, like they're gonna go to the separate like the bad guys place together." And I was like, "Oh." So it was cute in that regard. But the Princess Mononoke vibes I really felt with this. I was trying to look to see because this one's done by Kinema Citrus. Um, and I was trying to see if they did Princess Mononoke. I can't find it. No, that was Studio Ghibli, wasn't
That was Ghibli.
it? Okay. Sorry, y'all. I'm again not an anime person. Um, but I really liked this one. I liked F because she felt very traditional to me. This one says years after the Great Jedi Purge. So it's still this one's kind of you could almost call this one canon in a sense. Because it just kind of fits in that era between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. Um, so I'm headcaning this. This is canon. process dis- process determined. So
But this I love like you said, the kind of just oh shoot, I kind of lost my train of thought there. Uh, I love the relationship that was shown between the village, the sisters, the Jedi with her compatriot, the guy with the gun. I forgot his name. Also, um,
Volko.
Volko. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it was very simplistic. It wasn't too like I could watch this episode and not be completely confused. Like
Yeah.
you kind of question things in the duel, like okay, like why is this village being under attack necessarily? Or in the twins, it's like why is all this crazy stuff happening? Like the Village Bride was very simple. They took a very easy concept and turned it into something that I would very much love to see, like a full-on movie about this.
Yeah. This is one where I would pick. I'd love to see more of this storyline. I think something that would be really good for Del Rey to do is to continue on with the novelization efforts in adapting these storylines. I know they said they picked the duels specifically. I can't remember what Tom said why they picked it, but I'd love to see more authors go, you know what? I'd love to take on the Village Bride. I'd love to take on the twins. Does Kare find his sister? Um, and just kind of explore the realms a little bit more. I'm also taking this opportunity to say, because this is something that we can touch on briefly, but the what the Lucasfilm PR guy, the new one, um, he said something along the lines of, "Yeah, we're willing to explore more to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
outside of canon. Why can't you finish Star Wars Legends then? Tell me why Star Wars Legends can't come back." This could be a
I
topic
think
for another day, but
I will say this. I think that the main reason why Star Wars Legends can't come back is I genuinely think that Lucasfilm, Star Wars in general, wants to like make more of what Legends is into canon. I think that's one of the main reasons why. Now, like you said, that discussion can literally probably be like a 3-hour long discussion. But I I want to go to the Ninth Jedi because that is the very next episode that we're going to
yes.
talk about. This I think technically was the highest budgeted episode.
Really?
I watched the behind the scenes on this. The way they came up with this is they gave the director they basically said, "Hey, you have 15 minutes. That's how long this episode needs to be. 15 to 19 minutes is kind of what the guideline was." So he literally wrote two stories, one about a sabersmith and one about a masterless Jedi. And if you get where I'm going with this, like Lucasfilm basically said, "Hey, we really like the character designs and the story of both of these. We want you to combine them both if you can. Would you be willing to do that for us?" And he said, "Yeah." And the studio said in a way that like combining them and giving them more freedom to do whatever they want with both stories was actually scarier than just choosing one or the other. Um, which I can kind of understand that. But one of the most interesting aspects of this episode was apparently something that like I it didn't say in the extras, but I've heard rumors of it since this episode dropped. Um one of the concepts in this episode was apparently something that Lucas wanted to originally do in Star Wars, and that is the changing of the lightsabers.
The changing of lightsabers. Okay.
So in this episode, one of the coolest things is the lightsabers change color
Yep.
based on how you are connected to the Force and to that saber, because the sabersmith tells his daughter, like when she's like, oh look, this one can grow smaller and shorter, and it's not like it doesn't have a color, and he's like, oh well, I adapted these to uh basically adapt to the person that is using the lightsaber.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the reveal of this episode so, like, oh my god, like it was kind of
Yes.
scary and so cool at the same time. But like uh so that was apparently, like, don't quote me on this, this is something that I've only heard since the episode has dropped, that it was traditionally something that George Lucas kind of wanted to do, but somehow got in the way of like how his story would have been told. Because in the original adaptation of, I think it's Empire Strikes Back, the comic book,
Okay.
when he grabs Luke's saber, it turns red
Huh?
because
Okay.
it was something that they legitimately wanted to play around with, and then later on they decided not to go forward with it.
I think I think they still kind of use that as an influence because that's what you see with Anakin repairing Ahsoka's lightsabers. Ahsoka's lightsabers are traditionally green in the Clone Wars, and after she loses them and comes back in season 7, they're blue because Anakin repaired them and that he was reflecting his thoughts onto the lightsabers and rebuilt them because he wanted to protect her. So
Mhm,
that's where you get that. I think that's kind of along the same lines of what they were trying to go with, but just in a different way. Now we know in canon, the Sith take a lightsaber crystal and they bleed it and they
mhm.
force it to bend to their will, which is why you get the red color. Um,
And we've seen the exact opposite of that now in the High Republic, where they basically diluted a red kyber crystal and purified
yeah.
it into a white one. So we've seen a
And you
lot
see
of
that
different things.
And that was actually first done with Ahsoka in Rebels. If you read the Ahsoka book, she faces an
Mhm.
Inquisitor and takes those crystals and purifies them. So, side notes.
But
um,
what, like, so were you expecting, because I feel like the, like we just said, the Ninth Jedi is probably pretty high on both of our lists.
yeah.
What were exactly were you expecting by this title and how it started?
So I knew there was a Sabersmith one, and I kept going. I was like, I was as I was watching through, I was like, I'm not seeing the Sabersmith's daughter on here because I thought that was like the name of the episode, Sabersmith's daughter. Um, and so with the Ninth Jedi, I remember reading the descriptions through on Star Wars Lions, and I don't exactly remember what I was expecting with this one. Um, but man, did I absolutely love I can't even remember what her name is.
Uh,
Kara.
Kara. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I knew it started
So
with a
I
K. I was like, what is it? Yeah, Kara.
I loved her. She's great. She was quirky, and I loved seeing the lightsabers physically change because she's over there fighting with the lightsaber, and I'm like, girl, you're like 12. And
I love her design. She is supposed to be kind of influenced by the look of Leia in Return of the, or Empire, no, sorry, Return of the Jedi.
mm,
Um and you're right. So when I was watching it, I was like, okay, she's gonna just start fighting with this saber. This doesn't make any sense. But then I realized, okay, her father is a saber smith, which means that he would have had to practice with these to make sure that they are on par with what these Jedi's want.
yeah,
Also, he is force sensitive because we see him deflect a blaster fire at the very beginning of this
you're right.
episode, which is what makes his uh, their little workshop blow up to begin with. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, he clearly has some sort of training, and that, she is probably, been trained by him. So when she goes at it, when she like turns on that lightsaber and she's like, no, like, because I forgot Margrave, I think is what they call him.
Yes. Margrave Juro.
Yeah. So Margrave is somebody that she has known since she was a child. That's something that she states. And so when these Sith, the reveal of the Sith, I was
Oh.
like, what is going on? Like, because we see Ethan. Ethan comes in and he's like, I am a masterless Jedi. You must all be masterless Jedi as well. Like, why have we been called here? And there's this very ominous feeling through that entire scenario. And then when Kara comes in, she's super desperate because her father was just kidnapped. Like, she needs people to help her because right now she feels helpless. She
Yeah.
can't necessarily call herself a Jedi because she's never even thought about being a Jedi, right?
Yeah.
So she just throws these lightsabers on the ground. She's like, please help me find my father. I need your help. And they all grab one. And the really cool thing that I loved is I didn't notice it before, but on this rewatch right before we started recording, Ethan grabs a lightsaber in the very beginning of this episode. He turns it
Yes.
on and it's blue, but nobody else has a lightsaber. So you can't necessarily be like, oh, these people were always seen as bad. We just didn't pick up on it. No, like you don't see it until the reveal. Like
And that
everybody
was
just turns on their lightsaber. I was like, holy shit, what's gonna happen? It's so good.
and I think for me, I wasn't expecting it. So I'm sitting there and I just am watching. I'm like I w- I didn't put two and two together that like, oh, okay, the Sith are evil and the Sith will like kill any Jedi they find and then maybe try and find other Jedi by faking this
Oh
out of this.
no, because Margrave tells her that later on in the episode, like after the
Yeah.
fact. And I will say this, Margrave actually like basically deceiving everybody and acting like he's the ominous bad guy.
Yeah.
Like he even like he was the way they described it in the extras is they intentionally made him to look like Darth Vader so that way you have this feeling of, oh, he is bad,
Okay.
you know? So I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. But when he grabs the lightsaber, it immediately turns green. Not only does it turn green, if you look at it, it actually creates a handguard. So if you watch it again, so Kylo has the tri saber,
Yeah.
right? So instead of two of them poking out, it is literally a circle, but it's
Oh yeah.
created, it is an actual like kyber crystal lightsaber circle that is right above his hand in case anybody tries to like attack his hand,
And
which
I
I
think
thought
that's so
was,
cool.
I was like, that is genius. That is awesome. And so you see his lightsaber turn green. He starts fighting all these other people. And I'm like, holy crap, this is amazing. And then there's this bigger dude where his lightsaber actually starts turning purple in the middle of the fight.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, wait a minute, his lightsaber isn't red anymore. What's going on there? And you learn that he was never a bad guy.
He was a spy.
He was actually somebody who, like, he even says, oh, I was consumed by their darkness.
Mhm.
And like this is definitely one, and I keep saying it as the example because I want it to happen. I want Disney to say, "Hey, we saw what you could do. We gave you a bigger budget than everybody else. Now we're going to give you an even bigger budget to continue the story into a movie format." I want this to become a movie.
Yes, I completely agree. I think this is a perfect one, um, to go forth and conquer with. And I think with how big the galaxy is, and sorry, I keep going back to canon, y'all, but again, I'm a rule follower, so I like kind of figuring out where I can put this stuff. Um, this is many generations after the Jedi Order has become extinct, but you could also say these are planets we've never heard of before. We don't even get names of these planets. So they could be on the outer rim where they were in the High Republic originally, and High Republic like condenses after whatever happens in the High Republic, and you get these planets left all by themselves. Well, now they're like, oh, okay, the Jedi Order's been extinct, but in all reality, they've been here, and then Palpatine did it, and now you've got blah 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 blah. I think you could easily fit this one in. I think you could fit a lot of these in, honestly. And yes, I know they're anime, and sometimes having non-canon stuff is fun, but I like having a flowing story. So that's just where
I
my head's
think the
at.
problem is, and I mean they strictly said it for Visions, but I think one of the bigger problems with Star Wars is with everything else, they are very coy with saying or setting something in stone and saying, "Hey, this is canon," versus, "Hey, this is not canon."
It's so annoying.
It is, and I would love more of these to become canon, but at the same time, I know that that would limit these creators. I wouldn't have I don't think we wouldn't have a Ninth Jedi if it was canon. Like we wouldn't have that story at all. I don't think. You know?
See, I think you could make it work though. I think there's absolutely ways you can make these work in canon. Maybe the twins, probably not. You could make Tatooine Rhapsody work
I mean, I
in
feel like
canon.
that is the only one that technically would be considered canon because we see Boba Fett and Jabba. Like we have characters that are canon in there. Um, but I don't know. Like I'm really conflicted because I love these stories and I know that once you put red tape, they're not willing to take that red tape down, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's what sucks in a sense. But again, headcanon's always a thing. So I'll just live in my happy universe where some of these can be canon. Um, no, I really love the Ninth Jedi. I thought the cast did an incredible job. With the voice, the animation is superb. Um, I could just keep singing this one's praises. I really could. Um, I think I'd love to see an in-depth kind of psychology into, like, a sabersmith. Like, they've done, like, the mechanics of, like, the Millennium Falcon, X-Wings. Like, give me a mechanics of the lightsaber. Like, write me a manual on how to build a saber.
Yeah,
Like, I
we actually talked about this in our last episode and how like there was, those encyclopedias for Star Wars and they kind of showed you like I don't know if it was Luke's lightsaber or Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber or whatever, but it kind of showed you the pieces. I would genuinely like to know like cuz traditionally if you watch any kind of Ronin Japanese old school anime where it does deal with ninjas, samurai, and I forgot what era it's technically called, but the blacksmith is a trope that is always used. I'm not going to say
yeah.
it's overused because it's the era in which they are using the story, so it's needed technically for story purposes, but it like it somehow works. It's so
Yeah.
crazy, but it works here. And you know the two assassins that are uh that go and kidnap Kara's father, they even say, "Oh, you've made these illegally." And so in my thought process, I was like, "Wait, like maybe the traditional way of making a lightsaber is actually still a thing and sabersmiths like work on the black market or something, you
Ooh,
know? Like
maybe.
that it's
But they
again,
said it was the lost weapon. Like, the Sith were even like, "Oh, yeah, this is the lost weapon."
did they really say that?
Yeah.
Oh man. See, like it's crazy. Like you can technically headcanon a lot of this stuff, but it's so fun. I love like just the part where Kara was running away, and then she's like, "Wait a minute, I have a freaking lightsaber," and she jumps off of her speeder, and it goes into this slow motion swing. I thought they were gonna do a
Yes.
little bit more with it. I thought they were gonna actually show her slicing through the speeder and all of this other stuff. But still, there's just moments like that are just like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. Like I
Yeah.
loved everything from the force powers that were shown in this as well. You see force lightning in here. Um,
Mhm.
and the really cool thing that ends it all, you realize that the spaceship or whatever it is that they actually landed in for that meeting, it turns upside down and the camera pans out. It's a lightsaber.
That's fucking
And I was like, holy crap, that is so cool. Like, it's just like these small little nuances that I'm just like, I'm geeking out over, you know?
yeah. It was definitely really cool.
So
Um,
TOB1, right before we go into
yes.
possibly our last ad break, uh, I will admit, because of the anime nerd that I am, I love this. And people probably didn't like this one as much because it was very childish. It was like very odd. This is basically Astro Boy if he was a Jedi. The art style, the kind of like because Astro Boy, if you've ever seen it, I know that there was a remake. I think when I was in high school, they made a CGI remake of Astro Boy with Nicolas Cage voicing
Really?
the creator of Astro Boy. Um, the same tropes. It's basically the same tropes. This Jedi that I don't think had. I don't know if he had only one arm or if he didn't have any arms, but like
I don't think he
he
had any arms.
okay. Yeah, because like you never saw him. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Holy crap. Like how is he going to fight with his lightsaber? Like that's insane." But like just the idea that this droid wants to be a Jedi is something that you've never seen before. At
Yeah.
least I mean, people say, "Oh, but what about Grievous?" Grievous has like he was technically a human that was turned into a droid. So, like, and I don't know the canon story about that at all, but I know that he has a heart. He has a humanoid heart that that we saw freaking Obi-Wan blast the shit out of in Revenge of the
Mhm.
Sith. But seeing this, it was very heartfelt. It was like just a slice of life because this droid, he's super bored with the lifestyle that he has, and he's just like, oh, I want to go on an adventure. I want to just like be a Jedi and be awesome. And it's kind of just like how any kid plays Star Wars when when they're little. They're like, oh yeah, we're Jedi. We're gonna do all this, blah blah blah. Yeah, my
Yeah.
lightsaber. And then you realize well, there's a a darker story to Star Wars, and it shows it in this episode. Like, his master dies. He then goes into this giant fight with this Inquisitor, Sith Lord, whatever you want to call him. But yes, it's awesome in the sense of like he's still able to win, but it gets pretty dark. Like droids are like this guy slaughters droids. Like this Toby is his
Yeah.
name, TOB1. Toby loses a leg, he loses an arm. Like
So,
it's pretty intense. And then he like joins with another droid and turns into like Mecha Toby and freaking does the final slash. And it's great. I love I love TOB1 for completely different reasons. And I think it's more so because you can kind of connect to your childhood and be like, that's who I was as a young Star Wars fan, you
yeah.
know?
And I think I think for me this one is more up there. I think it's like 4 for me. Um And I think it's for the same reasons. Like I enjoyed getting kind of in touch with the childhood side. I liked the idea that the Force is in everything and
Hmm.
not just in midichlorians and in blood, because that's what it's Professor Mitaka was his name. Professor
Yes.
Mitaka designed him specifically so he could wield the Force. And I almost kind of feel like, because this is supposedly shortly after the Great Jedi Purge, um, that Mitaka was like attacked during Order 66, and he lost his apprentice and his arms, and that's why he chose to build Toby, was because, and like got him in the same height, because if you're going to build a droid to use the Force, then why not build him at like an actual height of like an adult, so that he can have like all the willpower and stuff. But I feel like the way they chose to kind of morph him in and out, it almost feels like he designed him to remind him of his Padawan.
Hmm.
um and I just like, oh, it's just like it's so touching. um and I
Well,
liked
because
the idea of the terraforming and everything too.
there was this moment like where uh oh I already forgot his name. Master what? It was Master.
Mutaka.
So Master Mitaka is like, hey, stop daydreaming. We have work to do. Like he's very strict with him, but then there's moments of like, oh well, if you want to be a Jedi, you have to go find your own kyber crystal, and it's
Yeah.
just like he's still encouraging him. Like he's not strictly like, hey, you're foolish. Hey, we're gonna beat you down into the dirt, and you're just a silly droid. No, it's genuinely a symbiotic relationship between a master and a Padawan, and
Yeah.
almost like a father and son, which is very much what Astro Boy was. And you're right. I love the terraforming because at the moment of which like it starts to rain, he is like so happy. He's like,
Hmm.
this is what Master wanted. He wanted to, make sure that this could legitimately happen. And so now at the very end of the episode, he's like, I'm going to take the research, I'm going to take the science, and we're going to go save other planets because not only am I a Jedi, but I'm a predecessor of my master, and we're going to continue his research. And I really did like that because one of the biggest aspects of Jedi that we know is once you become a Jedi Knight or Jedi Master, you're free to go, basically do whatever you want. If you want to do more research, if you want to go study in the Force, you can go do that. And that's what he is now capable of doing now that he feels that he is a legitimate Jedi now.
Yeah.
But do you want to go ahead and take our last ad break before we touch up on these last three?
Well, so we didn't rank The Village Bride or The Ninth Jedi. So
Oh, okay,
where
yeah,
do
yeah.
these three rank for you?
Okay, so the way I have it so far is Tatooine Rhapsody is at the bottom. The number 8 is the twins. Village Bride, I would say, is number 3. The Duel is probably, oh shoot, this is hard. Hold on. So 9, 8, 3, and then the Ninth Jedi is 2. Toby would be, well, you know what? Ninth Jedi. Oh man, Ninth Jedi is 2. Ninth Jedi is 2. Toby would be 4. Yeah. So that's how it is so far. And I need to start writing these down so that way I can
So
remember.
I just wrote yours down too, because I was like, okay, I'm gonna get lost. So the Ninth Jedi is number one for me. Village Bride is number two. Toby is four. The Duel is six. Eight is twins, and Tatooine Rhapsody is ninth. So, all right. So, y'all, we're gonna take an ad break. We're gonna come back for the last 3, so stay tuned. 3, 2, 1. And we are back. Thanks for listening, y'all. Appreciate it. As always. Haven't said that today, so gotta say it once. Okay. So we have The Elder, which is by Studio Trigger. And it's centuries after the death of Darth Bane and the initial extinction of the Sith. Tahine and his Padawan Dan, which I'm sorry, I find this absolutely hysterical that we have Dan.
Well,
It's
no,
just a
because
very
like we
simple
like
name.
in the Ninth Jedi we have Ethan, you know.
I guess it's true.
So
But
like
I find Dan is just really simple. Like, it's funny, okay? I'm sorry. Um, and this one, this one probably, I'd say this one's probably 7th for me. Even though I liked the Master Padawan feel of it.
I was literally writing in the 9th spot as the Elder. I am right there with you.
The
This is
ninth
very
spots? I thought
sorry, no,
Tatooine
no,
Rhapsody was
seventh,
your ninth spot.
seventh, seventh spot. Sorry.
Okay.
I This is very much a Qui-Gon Jinn Obi-Wan story.
Yeah.
Like it very much feels like that kind of vibe. Um because and you can kind of say without the raw emotion of Anakin, you can almost say this is an Obi-Wan Anakin type of story. Uh I did like it. This one felt like in the same vein of The Village Bride in the sense of traditional, like
Oh,
with the way the storytelling was going, but it's a darker tone of that traditional anime style. Uh the way that like the Master Jedi was like, hey, I know that you can be kind of eccentric and all of this. Like you have the young Padawan that's kind of like eager to fight, and is
yeah.
like, oh, let's like, if you need my blade, I'll be right there. And this is almost like I didn't know the time frame of this. I think it's even okay. So with that time frame, would that technically be before or after High Republic? It would be after, right?
I would say, yeah, I would say you're looking more towards right before like Phantom Menace
Okay.
era.
So we've already hit the tragedy of the Jedi that really starts to invoke a lot of those rules of like, hey, this is no longer like, and we can sit in a gray area. It's like, no, like this is your way into the dark side if you keep following this path.
Yeah.
And that's really what this story is about. The story is like teaching this kid, hey, like y- I know you're eager, but you have to be careful because like the Sith are real, the dark side is real. Like
Mhm.
you can legitimately like fall if you're not careful. And the way they talk about the Sith in almost all of these is in these episodes, it's like they're afraid to say it. Like it's not
Yeah.
necessarily like they are Sith because even this elder is like, "Oh yeah, the Sith. Yeah, maybe I was one of those at one time." Kind of thing. This old
Yeah.
man was creepy as hell though.
He was. I was like this gave me a lot of like the creepy spirit and Death Note vibes.
So the that does have like the dark tone of it. I will say if anybody has seen Samurai Champloo, like kind of their like darker stories, that's
Okay.
what this gave off. This was definitely in that vein of Samurai Champloo and Rurouni Kenshin, because Rurouni Kenshin can also get pretty dark as well. But I think it was just the animation, but were his blades retracting and like getting bigger and smaller, or was that just like the angle of the camera that was kind of making it look like that?
I think that was the angle of the camera because Matt said something along the lines of the same thing. He was like, "Wow, his blades just got short." I'm like, but if you look at this profile, it shows like
Yeah.
a length. So I think it was just the camera that
Okay.
they were or the perspective. So
Yeah. Yeah, because at one point they were kind of showing like the camera angle was below and like kind of
mhm.
looking up at him, and the blades looked really small. But then when he like jumped at the Padawan with both blades in the air, they looked really long. I was just like, what is happening? What is going on? What kind of blades are these? Because we kind of just saw that in the Ninth Jedi, how they were, she even said, "Oh, this can retract, longer or shorter." And I kind of
Yeah.
thought, "Oh, are they really going to do the exact same thing in a different episode?" But I still enjoyed it. This was still a fun episode. Uh, it's one of those like Saturday morning specials. Like, hey,
Yeah.
you gotta be careful with you can't just you're not a one man team. Basically, was the story of this one, and Dan Dan should have died.
Oh no, because it's literally the exact same wound as Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon Jinn takes it right in the stomach, and Dan does too. And Dan's like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine." Like,
Like so I completely thought he died, and I was like, "Oh shit, we actually got like a Jedi dying here." And then mid fight with his master and the elder, he like throws his lightsaber and it shows that he's still
yeah.
alive, and I'm like, "That doesn't make any sense." This is a lightsaber. Like it's not like your traditional sword where you can get cut. Like this thing like literally burns and cauterizes
Yeah.
everything, and then like kaput, you're dead. You're gonna be sliced in two.
Yeah. So, and that's like I don't mind it being more traditional, but at the same time, I was like, ah, ah. So, um, yeah, that's about all I got to say about it. It was definitely more lackluster, though. I liked the creepiness of it. Like, despite how much I hate horror stuff, I feel like Star Wars could lean into horror a little bit more, and I kind of liked it going into that aspect here. Um, so that is we said that's number 7 for us. And where'd you put Duel again? I forgot where to write down
Okay,
Duel for you.
so right now I have lot. Well, hold on, not gonna say that one yet.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. 2 is Ninth Jedi. 3 is Village Bride. 4 is TOB1. Uh, 6 is Duel. Elder is 7. Twins is 8, and Rhapsody is 9.
Okay, so our last 4 are the same.
Yeah.
Um, so La Pinocho. So this one's number 3 for me. I loved Lop. Lop was so cute. Um, I liked bringing in the alien aspect here because while we had aliens, an alien wasn't necessarily the main character in any of these. This is the only one where an alien is the main character.
Hmm.
And I liked that aspect. Um, and I found it interesting that it was like they played on the slave aspect like the Wookiees
Hmm.
with the Empire because I'm like she's tiny. What would they do? So that has me curious. This is another one where I feel like maybe not like full blown series, but we could definitely get like a movie here.
I would definitely want a movie, um, because this like get Vin Diesel in here because this was all about family. I loved it. I will go ahead and say it. This is my number one. This is my number one because this episode had me in the verge of like happy tears. And the reason why, at the very end of this episode, there's this epic fight between Ocho and Lop. And you have the epic speech along with the epic fight, along with the epic score, and it just like gave me goosebumps. And I was cheering Lop on. I was like, "Do it, save your sister. You can do it. This is gonna be awesome." And
Mhm.
I like every feeling that I get watching a shonen anime like My Hero Academia or uh or Naruto or Inuyasha, and there's like that one pinnacle moment in an episode or in a series. That's what I felt in the final fight of Lop and Ocho. Like it felt so good. Like to see her
Mhm.
really like, because let's go ahead and break down the episode before we get into the final fight. I kind of just jumped into it. But like you said, she's a slave. She gets saved by this family, which it's not necessarily said in here, but they are based off of the Yakuza family, which is a
Okay.
gang, which is technically a bad part of history and a bad part. Like, so it's like bad guys fighting bad guys here. But I love the way they use it because it's clans. It's like, hey, we
Mhm.
protect this planet, we protect this city, and now the empire is just wanting to take over. Like,
Yeah.
we are not going to let that happen. And you see them, it's like a 7 year jump or whatever. I think it's like 8 years, 7 or 8.
Yeah, 7 years.
So we see a 7 year jump, and Ocho is the one that is basically like, hey, the empire is the better way. Like, we'll be able to survive. We'll have like a better way of living if we just go with the empire.
Yeah.
And her father is just like, that is not how we do things around here. That doesn't
No.
make any sense. And so again, going into more of like traditional things, like it's very symbolic the way Ocho grabs her hair. And
Mhm.
when Lop is like, please just come back to me and dad or me and papa, and we'll be a family again. She cuts off her ponytail and just
Which
gives it.
in because in Japanese culture, that's like, oh, I don't wanna say shame, but I think it's shame. Like,
It's something along those lines. Uh, and so she cuts off her ponytail and gives it to Lop. And when Lop goes to her father, she's like, she said that she's gonna go with the Empire. She's not coming back, but I want to save her. I think we can save this family. Like, please tell me how.
mhm,
And he's like, okay, well, follow me. And then you get this story of the Jedi, an ancient story of
mhm,
a foreigner from long, long ago. So the idea of a Jedi has basically already died out in this story. And I love like the symbol of the rebellion is actually a crane, which I thought was really, really
yeah,
cool. Symbolism of like peace. Uh, but I love the way like this lightsaber was passed down from generation to generation to
mhm,
generation. And he says that family is not just based off of blood. I am your father, and we share a deep connection. Now, take this gift, and and it is yours. And I love that when she grabs it, she goes on to this fight with Ocho at the very end of the fight, and Ocho's like, "That's the family sword. That was always supposed to be mine. Why do you have it?" And then it starts to cut into this like, "You were never a part of the family, like F you kind of thing." And I'm just like,
Oh
we
my
like
gosh.
it it she took a nosedive because in the beginning of this episode, she is so enthusiastic to save Lop
Mhm,
as a slave. And like the the little droid that takes the picture of them all,
yeah,
and the whole point of it is uh right when they were taking the picture, Ocho was like, oh, with a little bit of time we'll become the perfect family. And
mhm,
like you keep seeing the picture throughout the episode, And it's just like it's so sad, you know?
Yeah.
And when the fight finally happens, it's this moment of realization for Lop that like, yeah, I may not be your blood sister, but you raised me, your father raised me, we became a family, and we swore that, we would help each other out. And she
Mhm.
swears, I don't know how long it'll take, but I will save you. And again, it just like the epicness of the music and the fighting and everything, and you get the very traditional trope of like the the cherry blossoms flying in the wind and everything. I was just
Yeah.
like, this is so beautiful. Oh my god. Uh
It felt very much like the Mandalorian fight between Ahsoka and the chief
oh
lady.
yeah, yeah, yeah. With the
Uh,
oh, what was it? The staff,
yeah,
right?
the Beskar staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally love this one. This is one I got halfway through the subtitled watch and had to drop out. So this, but I still love this one. I hit Lop is so cute, and I really could see like okay, we've got to have a come to Jesus moment kind of movie where we just kind of keep going back and forth, and then Ojo sees the error of the Empire's ways and is like, I'm gonna come home. But I also think this one would fit really nicely in because like in the High Republic and even in certain cultures, the the Jedi would go home and actually have a family because of just the way their planet's culture was.
Hmm.
Like Mundi, um, there's only so many males in his culture, so he had to help reproduce. Um, and obviously this is not like this because you have humans, but you could kind of see the same thing because on Corellia, the Jedi there actually stayed on planet and had families. So you can do something similar here, which is why they have the sword, is because he died, like a Jedi died a long time ago, and so that sword's been passed down as the family sword, um, even like during the purge and everything. So
Yeah, I absolutely love this. I would totally take a movie out of this. I would take a manga out of this. Like, again, you have so many choices as far as like other mediums that you can take, and it's already based off of like your Japanese influence, that Star Wars was even based off of. So dive deeper into it. It
mhm.
I will say the manga for High Republic, they kind of cheated because it's not even written backwards. You still read it like a regular
I
comic.
know.
And I
I
was
was like,
so disappointed, but still we will talk about that on a different day. I love this episode. I really, really do. Um there's a lot of people making like furry jokes for the fact that the main character was a
mhm,
rabbit. Um if they had to name the actual like I want to see this species
species.
of alien in Star Wars. Like I want to see them again.
Yeah, I do too. All right, so the final one. This one I only got to watch once, and y'all, I tried. I promise, I tried. It's been busy. Things are slowing down though, so promising, promising. Um, so we have it's a a Kakiri,
Akakiri, yeah.
a Kakiri. Um, and this is based prior to the initial extinction of the Sith. A Jedi named Subaki has been suffering from visions of an unidentified individual dying in front of him. He reunites with his old love, Misa, a princess who has been overthrown by her dark side wielding Aunt Masago. So this one I think you could easily fit in the High Republic era.
Hmm.
Um, because that's kind of when Jedi were a little more free to kind of do what they want, and they knew, okay, my attachments, like I can have attachments, but I have to realize the Jedi come first, kind of thing. I feel like it fits really well here.
Do you want me to blow your mind real quick on this episode?
Okay, blow my mind.
The story is Anakin, Padme, 3CPO, and R2D2. It's like it kind of blew my mind because I wasn't the one that made this realization. I was listening to a podcast and they said it, and I was like, "Holy crap, they're right!"
Yeah.
And it's so good. It so like you kind of get the hint at it like with the visions. The
Yeah.
clear vision is the vision that Anakin was getting via Padme dying and all of that, and we never did we ever actually see that vision, or did he only tell uh Palpatine about it in their meetings? Because I don't think we actually saw it in the prequel.
So I think we kind of get an idea of it in with his like nightmares and stuff.
Yeah.
Because you kind of get her like screaming.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, that's right. You only get it like audibly. You only hear the screaming, and
yeah.
then of course you
Because
you
you see her face, but it's from the pregnancy scene. And
yeah.
she's like, Anakin.
That's right. That's what it is. It's been so long since I've seen the prequels. So yes. So that is clearly like this what this is homaging. So I really love that aspect of it. The idea of like saving the one person that he loves, and the only way that he could do it is if he taps into the dark side and makes his promise to join the dark side. And a lot of people were saying like, oh well, why couldn't he just like save her and then like left? And it's this weird idea of like honor that the
Mm-hmm.
that I think the Japanese culture just like has in general, not just with their anime, but just like in general. Uh, make putting that into the story, it's heartbreaking because he his whole journey was to make sure that this didn't happen. His whole mission was to make sure that this didn't happen. And you know, the realization of, oh, like you were meant to kill her this entire time, crazy, but at the same time, hey, I can help you out. I can save her. You can save her, but you have to promise to come with me afterward. Like
Yeah.
it's dark. It's this I wouldn't necessarily love a like full out like sequel to, but I would like to hear like their next encounter because she is alive, unlike a Padme who ends up dying. She doesn't get to be resurrected. So, like, what would that interaction be? Does she then, train to be a Jedi and like try to save him, or what? I would like to see something to just be like, hey, this is what happened after that.
Okay. So because I don't exactly remember the end of this one because I watched this last week. I haven't been able to watch it since. Um, but the Wikipedia says Tsubaki. So Masago captures Tsubaki's friends and overpowers him, then attempts to convince him to join her as her apprentice. When Tsubaki refuses, Masago's masked henchmen attack him. Tsubaki kills them, but also accidentally kills Misa dressed in their uniform just as he had foreseen.
Yes.
But she's not dead.
Sh- So she
I'm
dies.
sorry.
No, no. So she dies, and then her aunt, who is the Dark Lord,
uh-huh.
tells the Shogun, the
Oh,
the
I'm
yeah,
misunderstanding the
she
because the
she
next
says
sentence is completely broken, Tsubaki agrees to join Masago, forming a dyad to resurrect Misa and departs. I was
yeah.
taking that in the same way as Palpatine and Anakin, like working together later to resurrect
No,
her.
no, no,
No,
no.
they
They
resurrect her.
they resurrect her right on the spot, and then she gets up. She's like, "Oh my god, what happened? What just happened?" And he's like, "You're alive. That's all that matters." And then like he walks away. She is like super disheartened. Like why are you leaving with the enemy? He
Yeah,
pulls down his hood of his robe, and then like that's the last thing you see.
I remember now. I was confused with the summary. I remember. Um, no, and I is this one's number 5 for me. Um, because
This is, yes, number 5 for me as well.
I think the story's really cool and the way it's told, and I think it could almost be something really cool to kind of set up as, like, a cool precedent to Anakin and Palpatine, because this is prior to the initial extinction of the Sith.
Mhm.
So it could like, Palpatine's literally like, "People used to be able to do this." Like,
Yeah.
it could
I love how you're just like, "This can all fit in canon if you just work harder."
you don't have to work hard to fit it in. It just it makes sense. So,
Oh.
and, y'all can hate on me all you want for it, but this is the way my brain works. So,
Well,
um
again, it's part of the conversation that I wanna have later on. I will go ahead and say it. We can plan it out. It doesn't have to be next episode. Um, I was wanting to make it a topic of discussion to ask, can Star Wars legitimately work the same as Marvel's MCU? Like, that is the topic of choice that I want to talk about, because I hear a lot of other people talking and like, "Oh, yeah, we're getting Mandalorian, we're getting all this," and, like, Star Wars had animation tie into canon before Marvel had, because What If technically works into canon, we just don't necessarily know
Now yet.
logistically. Like, we know that, like, spoilers for Marvel, I guess, like, Loki is what causes What If. Like, that's all I'll say, because I don't want to ruin it for everybody who probably hasn't listened or watched it. So Loki causes What If, which means that that is canon. Like, we know as Star Wars fans that the Clone Wars is something that legitimately happened in Star Wars canon, and the Clone Wars series is the stories that happened during the Clone War. So they fit it into canon in that aspect, and then played off of some of that in regards to the movies. They
Mhm.
connected a lot of the stuff. They were able to connect a lot of stuff with movies. Um, so I want to know, moving forward from where we're at now, we're 9 movies in, one Disney Plus show, well, technically two. Now going into three with Book of Boba Fett. Like, what you know, can there legitimately be a time in Star Wars where, because I think it was just announced that like Marvel currently has 31 projects that are currently in development. Like,
And there's currently 11 Star Wars shows in development for Disney Plus, and that includes, like, Andor and Kenobi and stuff,
mhm.
so I think it's a good topic, and I do have a schedule. I promise I will send it to you by the end of the week. So there's definitely some spots on there where we can definitely fit those in. So y'all
Yes.
tell us on Twitter or in the comments below when you want to hear that one, and we'll put it together. We'll plan it out. Y'all can send in feedback and give us your thoughts and opinions. Maybe we'll even pull in a full debate squad. Maybe it'll be a Marvel Star Wars
Ooh, that would be
crossover.
fun. That would be fun.
Ooh.
But overall, Visions was a plus for me. It was a giant success in my mind. Yes, you are right. The talk for this has died down a lot. I think that they are still trying to push it with, Star Wars publishing these like new posters and talking about each episode a little bit. But let's think of it. It would still, I'm looking at the calendar now, that today is the 29th. It dropped on the 22nd. We're only a week in.
Mhm.
We would still have 8 episodes to go, 7 episodes to go if it was dropping weekly.
Yeah.
Like, I think there would still be
Mhm.
a lot of conversation to happen with Visions.
And I mean, this was a standard length that was put out by as much as I hate standard lengths, these are all less than an average length of Bad Batch episodes. You
Mhm.
had 26-minute episodes for Bad Batch, 23 to 26, somewhere in that range. And so you could have given studios maybe a little bit more time and said, "Hey, you can go up to 26 minutes. We're gonna give you an episode a week." And I think it would have been I'm not saying it's not successful because I think definitely with the buzz it got last week, Lucasfilm was like, "Okay, yeah, we need to do more of this or we need to expand on some of these stories," and it worked. Um, so I just think it could have generated more hype, and there's nothing after this. What If ends next week. So it's not like it would have a Marvel show to cross over with. There's currently nothing in October for Marvel or Star Wars set to air. I take that back. There's one movie. It's coming out Friday. Terrifying Tales. We're gonna talk about that this month, I promise. Um, but I just think you could have had a lot of hype going
Yeah.
into the holiday season. Heck, you could have planned this to where you're building hype along the way, and then you go Force Friday and you drop all these Visions toys, Funko Pop, like XYZ. I don't buy I don't buy toys, so I don't really know. But you put out some of this stuff, and you're making bank because you're going into the holiday season. Like Star Wars' biggest problem is its marketing, and it doesn't do it well enough. Um, and the PR person who's worked at Lucasfilm for the past 35 years, very nice lady apparently. I've never talked to her, but she is retired, and her two um lower totem people who work directly under her are taking over the PR situation. We'll talk more about that next week. But I hope they make a change because Star Wars desperately needs new marketing. Um, and we can kind of so we had Book of Boba Fett was announced today. In 3 months, we will get the first episode of Book of Boba Fett. We got a poster and everything, so very cool. But this is the first thing we've seen for Book of Boba Fett,
I
and
think I still think that we will see we're gonna get a legitimate trailer at Disney Plus Day. Like I think
it's Disney Plus Day. Is that next month? Is that
it's
October?
November 12th, I believe. I think it's a Saturday.
So we've literally gotta wait that long
I think
for
it
it.
might be a Friday actually. Yeah, November 12th is a Friday.
So, and I'm not saying we can't all get along in this universe, but Hawkeye is coming out November 24th and just had its trailer released. So it's about 2 months on the Hawkeye situation, but we've had promotional images galore for Hawkeye. Like galore. So where's the Star Wars promo images? Why did we get a poster and we haven't seen anything else from Book of Boba Fett?
Well, also, I'm gonna play devil's advocate a little bit because I want the promotion to ramp up. I want people to get hyped about this. But like with Hawkeye, they filmed like on location while Book of Boba was like on set. And so you're gonna see a lot of green screen, a lot of blue screen type stuff. They're probably in the volume to make it worthwhile. So if you get a set photo, you're not gonna get much, you know? So
That's a fair point. It's a fair point. I'm not gonna say it's not. But again, we'll talk about it more next week. The other bits of Star Wars news, just to kind of hit it out, Andor and Kenobi are both done filming. Um, so yes, Andor we will probably get at some point next spring. Kenobi, we already know summer 2022. And then Mandalorian season 3 is currently filming and will be filming till March with a predicted air time of fall 2022. So that's kind
mhm.
of where we're at with recent Star Wars news. Again, we will talk a lot about the news we've missed over the past 3 weeks, next week, and any other news that comes up. If you've got a specific topic you definitely want us to hit, again, just let us know. Always open. We did have 3 more questions from Chris about Star Wars Vision, so we'll hit those.
Yes.
Um, He said, "What episodes do you want more to be done in season 2?" I think you and I both said it. I think we want season 2 to be
Completely new.
completely new. But we do, I think our top ones are the Ninth Jedi and Lop and Ocho. We want to see
More of.
more in those
Yeah.
storylines. And I would still say Akikiri would be another good one
Mhm.
to kind of follow along. What art styles did you love and which ones are quote not my tempo? The
Not your
duel is
tempo would be the
definitely
duel. Yeah, that's yours. That's
the,
yours.
that's mine. Um,
Um, I think the animation style that is probably it's so hard because Chris, you're gonna hate my answer, but I think I'm gonna have to cop out and say that I liked almost every single one of these.
I
Uh
liked all the rest of them too.
yeah,
It's
it's
just the duel.
if I had to say that one that I absolutely would have just been fine without is Akakiri is probably the one that was my least favorite animation style. So maybe that one. But my favorite, um, the one that I absolutely loved would probably have to be Lop and Ocho. I think I think that one, like the way they did Lop's fur, the way everything moved around. Uh, I will say Lop and Ocho's animation and dub was probably the one that I noticed the most. That the syncing with the ADR wasn't exact, but I still loved it. It was really hard for me to even be bothered by it with how great the actual episode was. But what about for you? Which one did you probably love the most?
I think La Pinocha was my favorite as well, just with how well they got everything done. On the ADR side, so you said you didn't watch the sub.
No, I have not yet.
So, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of this was done where the animation was for the Japanese speakers
Yes, yes, that's
and not
how
for
it
the
was
English
made.
speakers, which is why the ADR may have been more off.
Off, yeah. Yeah, and I know that's why. It's just for the fact that I haven't had the chance to watch the sub yet. The only sub that I did watch is the extras. All of the extras, there's some parts that are English, but most of the time when the studios are talking, it's all in Japanese. So that's why I had to watch it, of course, in subbed. Um,
So.
but Chris's last question is, what episode surprised you the most that ended up liking more than you originally thought you would? Um, Probably Lapinocho. Like it was just like, okay, she's a rabbit, like cool. Like I'm sure that, this is just another anime trope. And it's, you know, of course there's different species of aliens in Star Wars, but like, would you really expect there to be a rabbit? And so I was like, okay, it's a rabbit alien, cool. But I'm telling you, that last fight, that last monologue, everything that happened when she used the force to grab the other sword, like everything just like again, for me, when stuff like that happens, like I was on the verge of happy tears. I got goosebumps and it was just great. So probably La Pinocho for me.
So I think that's the same thing for me is because it was like, "Ah, rabbit, really?" But she was so charismatic and the rest of the story was really good. If I had to say a different one, I'd say probably Village Bride.
Yeah.
Um, because I kind of even though I wasn't sure which one Ninth Jedi was really going for, I kind of was like, okay, the Ninth Jedi, cool. It's the one with the Jedi in the title. I'm gonna like that one. And I spoiler, I did. Um, so I think the Village Bride would definitely be one that really surprised me. So
Mhm. Yeah, I think I started to hear um like for me, I loved the Ninth Jedi just over the premise of the idea of like the sabersmith and all of that. But
mhm.
I started to see more and more people talking about the Ninth Jedi, and I'm like, okay, this is probably the episode that like Lucasfilm and Disney were like, hey, we're probably betting a lot of stuff on this episode in particular, other than just the duel. So I think they already had that in mind of like, hey, this is probably going to be a fan favorite. But again, La Pinocho, just like the family aspect and like the outsider coming in to be a part of the family. I loved all of that for real. So really
Absolutely.
enjoyable stuff.
All right, y'all. Well, that is 2 hours and 5 minutes of visions. So
So good.
so good. And we will probably end up circling back because I'm gonna watch the behind the scenes. So we'll probably talk more about this, and we'll definitely be talking more about the duel. When it comes time for Ronin, the Ronin review is probably gonna shoot more towards the end of the month. Um, Maybe the week after if we can both push to get it read. Probably not, if I'm being honest, even though I'm taking a day off to read it. Um,
I am also going to be purchasing because isn't it going to be on Audible as well?
yes, so it
So
is on Audible.
yeah,
Um,
I'll be able to finish it within a week at least.
yeah. So we'll get it read, and then we'll have the review episode end of the month, to kind of give you an idea of where that's at. Um, but yeah, Clay, where can they find you on the Twitters?
Of course, you can always find me at FanboyClay on Twitter. The link tree that is in my bio shows all the links to all the shows that I am a part of, that being DC Alliance, Batman News Weekly, Comic Book Legion podcast, Weird Science, Marvel, DC, and manga podcast, three separate ones. And then, of course, Ranger Alliance and the newly added Star Wars Alliance. Again, so happy to be a part of this podcast. um, like we all knew it was going to happen. I was here way too many times. So again, thank you, Nathan, and of course you, Katie, for allowing me to join y'all's team.
Always one night, and man, I don't know how you do it. I really don't.
I don't know how I do it either, which is why like I will go ahead. I've told everybody in the GUA, might as well say it here. Last 2 weeks of 2021, I am ghosting everything. I am going to be asleep, hibernating for 2 weeks to get re-energized for 2022.
So there's your clue, guys. If you want to come on Book of Boba Fett, episode 1, we'll be here. So don't forget. And I'm looking for a co-host for that week because we're probably taking the week before off for Christmas. So, but hey, episode 1, end of the year, which may I add, fucking sucks because it's holiday season. Nobody likes doing anything the week between Christmas and New Year's Eve, man.
That is the truth.
But they were like, "Oh, we said it was coming winter 2021. I gotta get it in here." And I like how I said nobody likes doing anything the week between Christmas and New Year's Day, but I got married New Year's Eve. So, y'all, you can find me on Twitter. It's at Slice of Katie. This podcast you can find on Twitter. It's at Star Wars Alliance without the A in the wars. Very important. Don't forget it. My other podcast is a part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network as well as the Wabam Entertainment family. It is Slice of Film. And this week drops its newest episode, which is Split, which Clay was on with me for. I've got to edit that one because even though I recorded it 2 months ago, I still haven't edited it. So
Katie.
that's what I gotta do. I know. I'm sorry. I've had a lot going on. But upcoming episodes for the month of October include James Bond, No Time to Die, and Dune. So keep an eye out for those, because those will be the rest of October. And then the month of November is Ghostbusters month. So we'll be doing all 4 Ghostbusters films. So check those out. But yeah. So reminder, giveaways. So I gotta announce that giveaway at the very end. I'm sorry. But if you rate and review our singular podcast feed, it's Star Wars Alliance on Apple Podcast, or you can do it on another podcatcher too. I'm fine with that. But you do need to send me a screenshot on Twitter to the Star Wars Alliance account. And that will enter you into the giveaway. So far, I have no one in the giveaway. But remember, that's a signed copy of Ronin, and that is running through October 12th. the winner of the Marvel High Republic. I updated my phone to iOS 15 and it's throwing a fit all of a sudden. Hang on. The winner of the Marvel High Republic Volume 1 comic is it was his name was Charlie?
Charles, yeah.
Charles.
I will say, Charles, you're one lucky duck. I will say this: you have won on DC Alliance. You've won here. I'm pretty sure you won something on Marvel Alliance. I think we as a GOA network need to cut you off, man. But we'll give you this one. We so glad that you won. Thank you for being a listener for Geekverse and the GUA. Means a whole lot to us. But we will be sending that to you very, very soon.
Yes, I will reach out tomorrow to get some information from you so I can send you that because I gotta order it on Amazon and send it to you basically. So with that, y'all, I want to wish everyone a great day or night, whatever time of day you're listening or watching, and we'll see y'all next time. May the force be with you.
See ya.
Broadcast.